Call the Dupont City Council meeting for October 9th, 2012 to order at 7:10 p.m. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Coffey?
Here.
Councilmember Quartz?
Here.
Councilmember Ehrenreich? Councilmember Jordan? Here. Councilmember Trotter?
Here.
Councilmember Westman?
Here.
Councilmember Wilcox?
Here.
Police Chief Ron Goodpaster? Here. Interim Finance Director Steve Marcotte?
Here.
Fire Chief Greg Hull?
Here.
Planning Manager Bill Kingman?
Here.
City Administrator Don Masco? Public Works Director Peter Zahn?
Here.
City Attorney Bob Sturbank.
Here.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call on Nathan Trodall from State Farm to present a grant award.
Thank you, Mayor Grant. Good evening, Council. So I have a plan. The plan is that if I bring you a grant award every council meeting, in a few months we'll solve the financial problems. So for the second consecutive meeting, and probably the last, I'm proud to be here and announce a $5,000 grant that we received from State Farm, and representing them this evening is, Nathan Trodall from State Farm in Puyallup. Sorry, Nathan. Oh, and a little background. Larry came to us about 6-8 weeks ago, and he wanted to take a blue card train the trainer class. Probably the most expensive class I've ever seen. I could not believe the cost of the class. 6-day class. And the prerequisite was a 50-hour online course. And we have 7 firefighters ready to certify blue cards, so having Larry trained to do the testing is going to save us a lot of funds. But it wasn't going to be in the cards, but Larry tells me there's also a grant available, and I'd like to write it for that. And so the Friday before the class started, we received notice that we'd have been awarded this $5,000 grant, and so Nathan is here representing State Farm this evening.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Nathan Trodall, as you had said. I'm actually a Dupont resident, live up on Burnside Place. Many of you may have seen my big red Dodge State Farm truck driving around. It's kind of hard to miss. I worked on the corporate building for about 8 years as well before I moved out and opened my own agency out in Puyallup. Still love the Dupont area. So like a good neighbor, it's on the side of my truck. It's something we live by. So anytime State Farm gets a chance to help out a local community, we do it in a heartbeat. Especially with DuPont, the way you guys have helped out with us with having our corporate building right here. So it's my honor to present this check for $5,000 to the chief.
Thank you.
This.
Thanks, Nathan.
Next, I'd like to call on representatives from Cal Portland to talk about the Sequatchie Creek Restoration Plan.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Pete Stoltz from Cal Portland. We're just following up with a report on how South Puget Sound Salmon Enhancements Group is doing on the restoration planning for Sequatchie Creek. As you recall, we had a core group meeting of stakeholders back on September 6th. Since that time, South Puget Sound Group has been following up on information from that meeting. They've held technical team meetings, conducted some field reconnaissance through the marsh system, in the process of coordinating some stormwater sampling both up on JBLM, as well as coordinating with some work that the Squelch Creek group is planning to conduct. And they're currently working on updating a memo that'll provide this information for the next core group meeting, which is planned on November 1st from 1 to 4 p.m. here at Dupont City Council. If you have any questions, I'll be happy.
Thanks, Pete. Any questions? Councilmember Quartz.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pete, look, I appreciate the updates, but I got to admit, at this juncture, I feel like I'm in a ship down in the belly, and I'm looking out a porthole, and I just see things as they pop by my porthole. I don't have a view of the ocean, and I'd like to have a better view of the ocean. I realize this is a planning activity, but what I would be interested in is what's the timeline for this planning activity? What are your benchmarks that are going, and what are the deliverables? I realize the city has a different role than the participants, although I'm not sure I completely subscribe to that, but I'm willing to accept it at this juncture. But in the future, it would be very helpful if we could see, look, here we are, and here's when we intend to be done with this planning process. And these are the interim steps we're going to get to. These are the deliverables. Because right now, you guys are meeting, and you're telling us you're meeting, and we could even go sit in the meeting, but more importantly to me is what's the scope of the activity? When do you expect to be done with it? And what is it you expect to deliver? And if there were interim deliverables, you know, here's where we're at, here are the areas of agreement, here are the areas of disagreement, here's who agrees and disagrees. As I understand the city's role, at the end of the day, we're going to either accept, deny, modify, whatever the final product is. But I'd like to be better informed as a councilman so we can represent our constituents a little more vigorously.
I appreciate that, and you know, I'm trying not to take up too much time with too much of the council's time here on this topic, and I'm happy to go into to the extent that I can. And we can get pretty technical pretty quick, so there's some aspects that, you know, might be better that we talk about offline, but some things might be better off that we talk about here at the council meeting.
Well, even if you could give us a handout that we could, you know, I do better if I can hold something, digest it, and then say, okay, I understand. And I realize it's not a done process yet, and not everybody's in agreement yet, and that's fine. That's how this works. But again, I feel like I'm looking through a porthole, and you come bobbing by, you know, once a month, and that's what I see. I'd like to see the whole thing and have a better understanding of the scope.
I understand, and I think that, you know, we are really still at the early stages of this planning process. The South Puget Sound Group is holding these meetings. There were 5 elements of restoration that were identified in the settlement agreement, and so we've gone through the first 2 elements. We're going to go through 3 more elements in the next meeting with the core stakeholders, and really kind of lay out, well, what's the proposal? What are the problems that people identify with these? And then we're going back, and that's what they're doing kind of in between these meetings, going back, checking out all the details, doing things like conducting surveys in the marshes, get an ESM to check out what the elevations are actually on the pipeline that goes through the marsh that they want them removed to help improve flows down the creek, things like that. So this next November 1st meeting, I think, is going to be a pretty important meeting. It's going to be where we start to gel some of these 5 elements together. And I'm hoping we're going to start to emerge from there with probably a better picture about where realistically this restoration project can go. And we're still looking at having originally the settlement agreement laid out for us to have a plan a year from the date that the agreement was signed, and I believe that was about February 2nd. So we're still looking at that date. It's a little bit of a tight timeline, but that's what we're still shooting for, and we have to just make sure we take our time with this process, make sure we involve all the people that need to be involved, find out all the information that needs to be found out, and that's going to take some time before we really have something that gels. And we'll have these technical memos too that we can share with the council as those become available.
Okay.
That's helpful.
I mean, you're as aware as any of us of how contentious an issue this was in the city. And the city, you know, one of the things that we said as a council is we'll do our oversight role, which doesn't mean fire and forget. That means pay attention and do some oversight and be informed. And so, again, I have confidence in the process, but like President Reagan said, trust but verify.
Well, and I appreciate that. Cal Portland, from our perspective, certainly wants to see the process moving forward, and but also recognize that it's real important that we're patient, give everybody who needs to an opportunity to participate in this process, communicate their concerns, address those to the extent that we can, and then we'll have a whole permit process, SEPA review process, conduct the entire, due diligence on, once we've really identified what is a good thing to do and what we can do, and come forward with a good restoration plan.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Coffey.
Yes, Pete, as Councilmember Courts was speaking, would it be possible for you to send the minutes from the meetings? I know I've attended all of the meetings, and they're very in-depth, and it is a huge project. But perhaps if you could you send the minutes that are sent out to the stakeholders, to the council members? Maybe that would give them a little bit of an update of what's happening at the meetings.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Right. Any additional questions? Thanks, Pete. Next up is the approval of the agenda. A motion would be in order. Motion's been made by Councilmember Coffey, seconded by Councilmember Trotter. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up on our agenda is public comments. This is the first of two opportunities for anyone to come together and address the council on any issue, past, present, or future. Is there anyone that would like to come and speak to any topic? Okay, there will be a second opportunity going forward. Next up is the approval of the consent agenda. A motion would be in order. Motion's been made by Councilmember Coffey, seconded by Councilmember Jordan. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries 7-0. This brings us to the discussion items. On the topic tonight, front and center for me at least, is a proposed budget. I don't need to tell everyone the situation we've in. We've talked about this a lot at the community, but tonight I wanted to take this opportunity to present to the citizens and present to the council two budget proposals for 2013. And the purpose is to help us keep moving forward together as a community. I don't need to tell anyone how tight money is for our families, for business owners, for our employees, for government at every level. For the city, this means much of the revenue that we depend upon to pay for our police officers, our firefighters, our parks, our trails, our infrastructure, our recreation. All of this comes from development fees, from sales taxes, from new permits, and from other revenues that we pay. These categories are in decline. All of us are doing more with less, and no one takes anything for granted. However, the course that we must take together is clear. We must set priorities, we must reduce our expenses, and we must take care of the basics. This has been my focus since becoming mayor, and we will continue to do an even better job of managing our tax dollars, managing programs, managing our assets. This is a time for focusing on the city's core responsibilities and doing those things well. And as we keep moving forward together as a community, I can't emphasize the importance of all of us working together to be part of the solutions that our city needs. The first thing I want to talk about is getting back to basics. As you know, this budget can do nothing than face the realities that our community is challenged with. The options for us moving forward are few. We must increase revenue and we must reduce services. As you know, we've already made significant reductions to our operations to address revenue shortfall. We've talked about these at great length, put them up on the board. There's a handout available for anyone that wants them. It's about 2 pages long of the reductions that have been made over the last several years. We've renegotiated contracts, we've reduced irrigation, we've pursued grant funding, as you continue to see tonight, to offset the services and the equipment that we need. Since becoming mayor, I've further reduced salaries of management and staff. We have not filled vacant positions, and I'm implementing performance measures into our budget. It's important for us, as I've said, to set priorities and make sure that we're accountable for results, making sure that we're accountable for effective outcomes. In order to propose this balanced budget, I asked each of the departments to carefully scrutinize all expenditures, focusing on maintaining core services and providing options that reduce their budget and do what is absolutely essential for the city to provide for the residents and what the residents and the businesses expect in this community. It's our goal to achieve efficiencies and be as lean and highly functional as possible without making any further reductions to our current staffing levels or services. To help in this effort, we brought in the State Auditor's Office to help assess our current performance measures and recommend improvements, as well as conduct trainings to empower the city employees to be more effective in identifying and planning on key deliverables. This budget proposal was developed on priorities identified by the Council Public Safety Infrastructure, on Parks and Greenways feedback from the 2009 Community Survey, and options from the Community Finance Committee, and as well as listening to the feedback from the many residents that attended the community neighborhood meetings and the many town hall meetings that we had this year. Since day one on the job, I've been clear that providing financial stability for our city is my top priority. Northwest Landing is built out. We can no longer rely on developer money to pay our way. The harsh reality is we cannot make the payment on the infrastructure that our police officers and firefighters depend upon to do our jobs without increasing revenue or having drastic cuts to services. Therefore, 2 budget proposals are made for us to consider tonight. And I'll talk about Proposal A and I'll talk about Proposal B. Before getting into that, I want to share that we've looked at all available options in a very short amount of time. And I acknowledge that there are no perfect solutions. Some of the things we've looked at is restructuring or bonding the revenue that we need to pay for the debt for the City Hall, the police station, and the fire facility. Bonding or advance funding is something that's an option for us in 2019 when the bonds that were used to pay for these facilities are callable. If we do something now, if we did something in the short term, we would issue new bonds and we would put that money into an escrow. The bonds would be issued at approximately 4%, and we would earn about 1% of revenue, losing approximately 3% per year until the bonds were callable in 2019. There would be a cost to this. It would be approximately $1.5 million. The other challenge, and that would be a $1.5 million above and beyond our current costs right now. The other challenge to issuing bonds and taking advance funding right now is doing so would exceed our debt limit, our debt capacity, which is something we cannot do. The other option that we looked at that's become quite popular is renegotiating. It's something that sounds very simple, something that's easy for us to do. Like, we've all refinanced our house, we're renegotiating, at least many of us are trying to. But that's not the situation that we're in. The reality is that $18 million of certificates of participation were issued in $5,000 increments. Those certificates of participation are publicly traded on the market every day. In order to renegotiate, we would have to negotiate with every person, every bank, every trustee, every investment firm that holds those certificates of participation, and we would have to reach 100% consensus. We've also looked at a property tax. We've looked at permanent property tax. We look at short-term property tax. There's not trust in government right now, whether it's on the federal government, the state government, or even here in our community. And to invest in a permanent property tax did not seem the prudent thing to do. So we have a temporary property tax that will be considered by the voters and will fundamentally shape the future of our city depending on that outcome. which is in the hands of the community. To be proactive, we have 2 budgets. Aaron, can you pull up the slide, please? Not knowing what's going to happen in November with the proposal that will be considered by the community, we have Budget A. Budget A assumes the temporary property tax is supported in November and serves its purpose as a stable bridge to the future when other options would be available beginning in 2019 and beyond. This temporary lid lift would allow us the time to focus our energies on economic growth, diversify our tax base, continue our efforts to streamline our permit processes, enhance and attract new development, and reform our tax code while maintaining the essential public safety services that we depend upon. Budget B. The second proposal was prepared in case a temporary property tax does not pass in November. Budget B proposes to fulfill our financial obligations by reducing parks and historic services, reducing essential public safety services, eliminating the 3 firefighters currently funded by the SAFER grant, eliminating fire support and administrative services and personnel, as well as eliminating an additional firefighter and a police officer, as well as increasing taxes and fees. These proposed cuts in Budget B are based on the input of the community and in priority order from what I would see as our preferences from things that are not as essential to the things that are essential. Regretfully, it is not possible to rebalance the budget without taking painful reductions in our public safety operations, which account for almost half of the city's general fund. Furthermore, it's not possible to balance the budget without increasing taxes and fees in either proposal. As the council deliberates on these proposals, our future as a community is not theirs to decide. It is up to us as a community as a whole. The quality and effectiveness of the services our city provides will significantly be decided upon by the voters this November. No matter the outcome, we will continue coming together to be the difference that we want to see in our community. We will keep our city great by working collaboratively, embracing new ideas, respecting one another, volunteering our time and talents, engaging in thoughtful and constructive dialogues, and continuing to think outside the box and look at all available options. We will live within our means, and we will do our best with the resources that we have available. We will be as efficient and effective as possible, and will continue setting priorities, planning ahead, and establishing performance measures to evaluate effective outcomes. We must learn from lessons of the past, move forward, and invest in a prosperous future for our community. That's what a budget is all about. The budget must be balanced, and the council will deliberate on these budget options as well as their own ideas, and we will continue to provide you, the community, with more specific details about each of these proposals. As we move forward together, the council and the community, we welcome your feedback, your concerns, and your questions. As we keep moving forward, I can't emphasize enough the importance of all of us working together and being part of the solutions that we want to see to make DuPont the best city to live, to work, and to play. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions in this discussion item. Councilmember Coffey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the delivery. I think it's premature to really be able to have any questions to ask. We do need the 2012 budget, to make the comparison between the two. So I would ask that we get the final 2012 budget to the council as soon as possible, in time for the study session next week. Thanks.
Councilmember Ehrenreich. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Westman, then Ehrenreich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your presentation tonight. I'd just like to reinforce that these are recommendations coming from the mayor to your council, and that the council will be deliberating on these recommendations during their workshops. Hopefully, you will be here to attend those workshops and to give us your input, if not collectively as a council, certainly individually as a council person. Your input is extremely important in this process going forward, because it is going to be up to us here to make that final decision on what that budget is going to be. Again, these are only recommendations. This council will decide the priorities upon which funds will be expended. This council will decide if safer firefighters will be retained. Your representatives here tonight want to make that absolutely clear. It is not the mayor who is going to be making those decisions. It will be us right here. The mayor has done an excellent job presenting materials at these different community meetings. Tonight he has presented to the council and through us to you his proposals. We have a lot of work to do, council. We need to take very seriously those sources of revenue that are going to be available for the final budget that will be adopted in December. Again, I implore you, be a participant, not a bystander in this process. It's too important for our community not to be engaged. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Councilmember Ehrenreich.
Just wanted to take a second to thank the mayor and staff for pulling this budget together, this proposed budget together. I can imagine how difficult it is to sit and talk about what kind of cuts you would have to make, especially when they're this significant. When you really what you're really hoping to do is to try to do the best you can for the citizens at DuPont. As Councilmember Westman always says, reminds us, is that we will pass a balanced budget. We didn't last year pass a balanced budget, and I recall saying at the time that our choices that we're going to have to make in 2012, and we're at that point, are either raise revenues or cut services, and that's where we are. And that's essentially the differences between Budget A and Budget B. That decision, whether we raise revenues or cut services, the specific cuts or the maintenance will in fact be made by the council. The decision of whether we go down the avenue of Budget A or Budget B will be made by the voters. And this is your decision to make. You have to decide whether something along the lines of Budget A or something along the lines of Budget B is what you want to see. We can slice and dice the numbers, try to come up with all different ways to explain it, but there really is no way around this thing. It's going to be probably something like Budget A or something like Budget B, depending upon the outcome of the vote. So it's not just a matter of coming to the meetings, as Councilmember Westman suggests, and participating. You're right, that needs to happen. But you all also need to think long and hard about what you want DuPont to look like and decide whether you like A or B. So I am praying for you all. I hope you're praying for us, because this is going to be a very, very difficult decision to be made.
Thank you. Councilmember Quartz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me echo Councilmember Ehrenreich's comments and express my appreciation to you and the staff for this work. And it hasn't been mentioned yet, but I think it's compounded. I know, Steve, you've just been thrown into the briar patch, but you've been thrown in the briar patch for great news. And you know, all this hard work is going on, and the person who normally would be pulling the yoke the hardest on it, Sandy Hines, has a bigger task right now.
Two bigger tasks.
Many tasks. And I think, you know, it put it all in perspective when the news came out Saturday that the Hines family were now parents of 2 more baby boys. And so I think, as hard as all this is, what a great news thing. And I think all our prayers and congratulations to Sandy, who right up to the last minute was
literally
playing A-ball for our city and for this effort. So, you know, keep everything in perspective. Am I on? No, you saying I'm not on? I thought I was on.
You're on.
Sounds like I'm on. And again, Steve, thanks for jumping in. I know you and Don have been rowing feverishly for the honor of the ship. Row well and live. Mr. Mayor, I thank you for framing the issue related to our debt service, because I know been many discussions, and it's not for anybody's lack of desire to find a better solution for the city, one that is more advantageous to us, and some of those are confusing, complex, and also the translation from my home to the city's debt. There's a huge labyrinth you go through, and most of us found that challenging, and I appreciate the work you and some of our advisors have done in better framing that. What I would ask, and I know we're going to get into this in the budget workshops, but you're particularly on the B budget. It's going to be important to understand not only where cuts are made, what we're going to save in your proposed cuts, but also the impact. And I know as we look at public safety, but also, Peter, I see some things up there that if we adopted this budget as it is proposed, would have a significant, visible, short and long-term impact on the well-being of our infrastructure. You know, we've taken a lot of pride in being a city of trees and a lot of energy there, and I think we have to understand what the impact would be if we went there. It seems obvious, the impact of loss of public safety, but I would ask both Ron and Greg that we're going to really need to understand what that would mean. You know, none of us want to go there, but if we have to go there, we better go there eyes wide open and have an appreciation, the impact on every one of the residents if we have to make those kinds of cuts. But also, you've proposed some increases in revenues, and there's twofold there. You know, we've already had the Economic Development Council in to give us some insight to the impact of business-related taxes on business development. It will be important for us to be able to weigh the benefit from a revenue standpoint of the changes in B&O, of rental licenses, of tiered license fees, what we would potentially gain, but also what long-term impact may have on the business community. You know, there are no cheap, easy solutions, and every option that the council ends up taking is going to have some impact, and I think all of us are going to want to know that, and it's obviously not possible to do that in your summary or even right up front here in the budget package, but I think we're going to have to carefully walk down each one of these as we face those hard choices. Let's make informed choices if we have to make those choices. Thank you.
Agreed. And just to echo Councilmember Westman's comments, this is step one in a long process. And these are proposals, these are options. The council will consider them, and the community will come together and discuss them. And there will be many more details available. All the information that the council received tonight will be up on the website. And furthermore, there will be several work sessions to discuss each and every one of these proposals in detail that are all open to the public. So encourage people to continue to participate and stay engaged. And we appreciate all that you're doing already. Councilmember Wilcox.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Am I on? Now I am, okay, yeah.
You're always on.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to compliment the mayor and the staff, too. I know that I've spent a lot of time with the staff, and we have one of the most outstanding staff I think I've ever worked with. I've been in education for 35 years and worked with a myriad number of people, and this staff is tops. To go through this and to come up with a proposal A and B, not easy. We live in pretty difficult times. We all realize that. The thing is that I've been walking around Dupont, and I've been supporting a particular person for an office, and I fit about 1,500 homes, and a lot of those people out there are in the don't know what's going on. And a lot of people said, Mr. Wilcox, would you come back and talk to me and let me know what's going on, and I'd like to talk to you about this and that. So what I'm asking, I realize what you have here, Proposal A and Proposal B, are good, and we have to wait for the November election. I realize that too, but I would like to, if with your okay and your pat on the back, to go out and start talking to people and share what you have here. If not, or would you rather have me wait on that?
I anticipate that our community will be talking about this now and till December. So I think the more conversations that can be had,
Okay,
the better.
so I'll be glad to go out, yeah, and talk to these people, yeah, exactly. So what you have here, once again, is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as a council, like all the people have said so far, we have a tough decision to make. Please, 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 be with us, pray for us, help us, because this is not going to be easy. Thank you.
Additional council questions, comments, discussion? Councilmember Westman.
Mr. Mayor, over the last several weeks, you've conducted these community forums, and a mailing went on out, and we also used different places here in the community. Are those same privileges available to me as a council member, so that I or anyone on council wish to have a community forum along the lines of this budget, not to establish a quorum, but to have an opportunity to meet in this room here or public safety, wherever, and hear the concerns, hear what the constituency has to say about the budget, so that as we proceed into our workshop, we have a background of where our constituents are at, having to do with the budget. Have an open forum so that we're able to, in perhaps an informal manner, have the type of dialogue that you kind of modeled for us for those community forums. However, it would be at a councilmatic level rather than so much the mayor's level. Is it possible for us to do that, or is the time too short? Probably.
Well, you said before we start our workshops, which is next week, and so I think that's a tall order for you all to do. But God bless you. Go forth. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
yeah.
Just so that all members of the council have the same information, my recommendation would be that if the council wanted to hold neighborhood or community meetings relating to the budget, that the council do that as a body, rather than by individual members who then might hear or receive different information.
I think that's what he's asking, for the council to do this.
And that if there is a quorum, as Councilmember Westman indicated, that we would simply notice it as a special council meeting.
Sure. Okay. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Or else we'll move on to the mayor's report, where we'll hear from that guy again. Okay, next up on the agenda is the mayor's report. I'll keep this short and sweet. I just want to thank so many residents that came out and participated in those community meetings. The last one, I mean, they were fun. They were challenging. They asked some really good questions. I learned what it was like to drink 5 bottles of water and stand there for 4.5 hours on several occasions. But the important part was people came together. We asked questions, we answered questions. Sometimes I didn't know the answers, and we took notes and we'll follow up. And council, I will make available to you and to the public those questions that were asked and what those answers are, as well as I want to hit on a couple of the highlights. There were 3 things that were said. There were many things that were said, but there were 3 that were said that I thought were important to mention tonight. The first was, as we consider going forward with this budget and passing a balanced budget and considering a property tax to provide a temporary, stable solution for us to move forward when other options are available, they said, you know, whether this thing passes or whether it fails, would you support citizens coming together like they did in the Finance Committee, volunteering to look at the budget, look at the options, and scrutinize what's being done, what's being looked at, and provide feedback? We need to talk about more of what that looks like, but I think that the more that the community can come together, the better. And I think it'll be a resource to the council, as Councilmember Westman said, which now deliberates on these options going forward. But in the end, that decision and the responsibility to adopt a budget lies with the council, and I think the more public information and the more public engagement that can be had, the better. The second thing is, they said, you know, we'd like some assurances. We know that priorities change and revenue rises and falls, and hopefully, as we invest in our economy and we have a more vibrant economy with increased development and a more broad base of revenue coming in, that revenues will shift in the positive direction. And they said, you know, we want to make sure that the revenue that we're being asked to support in November goes towards those things. And I made a commitment to come back to the community and come back to the council and share with you some options that would do that. I don't know what those are yet. We started working on those today, but I'll share that with the community and I'll share that with the council to make sure that what we're asking of the residents to invest in goes towards the things that we need to invest in. The last thing that I thought was important was the need for communications, the need for improved communications. And they said that, you know, it would be great if we did this more often, come together as neighborhoods and talk about the issues, talk about what's important, get to know each other. We began every meeting with a very brief talk by me, and then every table went around and they said their name and where they were from. And it was neat after every meeting, they go, you know, I didn't know such and such, or I didn't know that I had this connection with this person over here, or we actually served together. And it was awesome to see, and after the meetings were over, those conversations continued. Some were very intense, but the conversations continued. And I think that over everything was very important. And they said, you know, we desire to continue to stay connected, to continue to come together, and to continue to be informed. And so one of the things that I promised I would do is I would restart the newsletter that used to be mailed out a long time ago. It's something that people have been asking for this year. It's something that I haven't had that much time to focus on, but it was really clear that was something that people would like to see, and so we're going to do that. We're going to put out a mailer, and we're going to have information about what's happening. We're going to provide an opportunity for the volunteers that are giving their time and their talents and their energies serving on so many committees to talk about what needs to get done from their perspective and what they're working on. We're going to talk about opportunities to provide real kudos and accolades for people that are doing so much in our city. And it'll have an opportunity to update you on events that are happening. Aaron Larson has done a great job to update our website, and I encourage everyone to go there to that community calendar. It's got information of what's happening with the ROA and what's happening with the city, but we'll also hand deliver that to folks and make sure that everyone has more opportunities to come together as a community and stay informed of what's happening. So again, thanks to the many people that came out to those neighborhood meetings. I appreciated your questions. I appreciated the insights that you provided and the questions that I wasn't able to respond to, but will. So please stay tuned for that. Oh, the other communication suggestion, which I thought was really fun, was could we put a box out front that says "Ask the Mayor," and maybe every council meeting I respond to 1 or 2 questions. And one of our friends in the community said, "What if it's a tough one?" I said, "Well, we'll respond to the tough ones too, and maybe we'll do that in the newsletter." But I thought these were all great ideas, and we need to act on them. And council, I'll look for your support to help our community continue to stay connected and stay engaged, and make sure that we're communicating with each other as a whole. So with that, I have no further updates. City Administrator, I'd like to call on you and Chief Goodpasture for an update.
I'll go. I guess I'll go ahead. The police chief give his update, and then I'll do mine.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I wanted to give you an update on some burglaries we've had recently, which has been very unusual for our city. We normally rarely have burglaries in town. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had 2 burglaries in the 1800 block of Miller Drive up in the Bell Hill area. One burglary was through an unlocked kitchen window. Guns, personal papers were taken, cameras, lens, jewelry, sometime Sunday morning on the 30th. The other one occurred just down the street from that burglary. Entry is unknown, jewelry was taken, have no suspect information on either burglary. We thought we were going to get some prints off of a screen that was removed off of a kitchen window. However, after dusting, all we found was smudges and things that we could not use evidentiary. The cases, both of them are currently under active investigation. We have some folks that we're looking at and hoping for some success here in the very near future.
Thanks, Chief, and thanks to the police officers that are working on that. City Administrator.
Okay, as Councilmember Courts mentioned earlier, we are pleased to announce that we do have some additions to our city family. Sandy Hines had her baby twin boys early Sunday morning. They were 5.5 weeks early, but mom and babies are doing well. This is Zachary Scott. He was born at 6:58 a.m. on Sunday morning and weighed in just slightly over 6 pounds. And next we have, we have Nathan Richard, excuse me. He was born at 7:01 a.m. and weighed in just over 4 pounds. So he's the scrappy one. He's been the one that we've been teasing her about all along, Twin B, who's been battling for space, and he continues to battle and actually beat his brother in coming off of the breathing apparatus. So both of them are doing well. They'll be in the hospital for about another week and a half, and then they'll be able to go home. So we wish Sandy, Scott, and big sister Emma congratulations. So, and yes, she was working right up to the last minute. I think we were talking at about 7:30 on Saturday night, working on budget stuff, and then 12 hours later, she actually had the baby. So, yeah, we do appreciate her efforts. Next item is the fall CERT class is still accepting registrations. This class starts Tuesday, October 16th. It is held for 6 classes on Tuesday and Thursday evenings for 3 weeks, 6:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. over at the Public Safety Building. And then there is a practical exercise that will be held on Saturday, November 3rd. For more information, please contact the fire department. We've had over 60 people trained in CERT to date, and we'd like to continue getting more and more of our citizens trained. So please contact the fire chief and the fire department to sign up for that. And then the fire department is also going to be having their annual pumpkin patch on Saturday, October 20th. From 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the fire station, and it's Fire Prevention Month, and this is kind of one of the activities that we are doing to work on public safety. There's tours of the fire engines, the apparatus of the station, free blood pressure checks, a blood drive. The Cascade Regional Blood Services will be here with their blood mobile, so you can sign up and have your blood taken just in time for Halloween. And then they'll also be selling bike helmets and multi-purpose helmets. And at the end of the tour, each child will get a pumpkin to take home. Let's see. I wanted to make a mention that on the restoration planning, Councilmember Coffey, you asked about whether the information from the meeting minutes could be provided. We do have a section on the city website that has all of the materials and the minutes and anything and everything you could want about the restoration planning. If you can't find it, please let me know. but we put that out there a few weeks ago as a tool for citizens. And then lastly, there was an announcement that went out yesterday, I believe, on aphid tree spraying. We had a local resident who took it upon herself to work with the tree service to offer discounted tree treatments for aphid control at a discounted rate. So if you're interested in that, the information is on the city website as well. You do need to let the tree company know no later than October 31st if you'd like to participate in this. There's no requirement to do so, but if you'd like to kind of get the bonus with everybody else, please see the website or refer to the letter that was sent out yesterday. And then also, just on a final note, we had 5 city staff members who participated in the American Heart Association Heart Walk this past Saturday. We not only raised over $600 for a good cause, this actually also helps our wellness program, which helps us get a discount on our medical health premiums for the city. So thank you to those who participated. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilmember Wilcox.
Yeah, pardon me, Chief Hall, is there a deadline to sign up for the CERT classes?
6:30 p.m. on Tuesday.
You
can show up.
You can show up, that's it.
Yeah, we're not going to turn anybody away, but our class is not nearly full, and so we're looking for more participants.
Okay, and Mr. Aaron Wright, yes. It kind of coincides with the report that a young lady made here. The sap that comes down from the trees out in the parking strip, I've been told once again that if you can eliminate a lot of that by just watering them quite a bit. Is that true, or how do you eliminate that? You know what I'm talking about? You walk along the sidewalks and there's sap all over the place. Yeah. You get on your shoes, dogs get on their feet and everything else. Is there a way to eliminate that?
Eliminate the sap itself? Or the
it falls from the trees, yeah.
Well, the sap can be washed off.
No, I know that, but is there a way
to eliminate the aphids chewing on the trees?
No. No, okay, what I'm asking is you walk along the street, you find once again a kind of a sticky substance from the trees, yeah, on the sidewalks, and it gets on your shoes, gets on the dogs, and is there a way to, we've been watering ours quite a bit, and we don't have that problem. So I was wondering, is that the way to go or what?
Oh, the reason, the reason
they're not.
Some trees are just more susceptible to the aphids.
Hang it a second. You're not on the record, so I'll override. So, do you want to just conclude and then we can have everyone clear so Aaron Wright can, and then we'll have Councilmember Westman go after that. Okay, John, you're on.
Oh, okay. Some species of trees are more susceptible to the aphids and are more attractive to the aphids than others. The succulent type foliage. And so that you don't find aphids in a particular tree may be just a function of the tree itself, the species of the tree itself. But there are natural methods for controlling aphids that are more successful or less successful. But it's probably more a function of the species of the tree why you don't have it as opposed to somebody else has it.
Yeah, I'm not.
Am I not understanding your question? I'm sorry.
John, you need to hit
across to you. That's my fault. I'm just talking about the sticky substance on the sidewalk as you walk by from those trees. Like, for example, in our front yard, on the strip, once again, we have watered those trees very much, and we don't have that. Is that the answer?
You need to stop.
Watering or not watering the trees isn't going to have an impact.
Larry, you need to hit your button.
No, watering or not watering the trees will not have an impact on the aphids. Trying to rinse the aphids out of the trees will have an impact, but watering the amount of water you give the trees won't affect whether the aphids attack it or not.
And just as a resource, I know this is important, but on the city's website and in the tree care manual, I think there's some information, as well as in several editions of the Friday letter. There's been several treatments that have been provided. Some work, some don't, and the other option that's been presented is by this resident that said, hey, I've tried some stuff, it doesn't work, I want to hire a professional service, city, ROA, will you help me? facilitate that, and we said, sure, we'll help her solve the problem that she's looking to solve. And so there's several options that are out there for people to find.
So you're saying the aphids are causing that liquid or that sticky stuff to be on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Essentially what's happening is the aphids are eating or attacking.
Larry, you need to turn your button off. John.
The aphids are attacking the tree, eating the sap in the tree, and then excreting what a lot of people call dew or honeydew or whatever. And it's the excretions that you're seeing around the base of the tree that's turning things black and sticky. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I misunderstood your question.
I didn't get clear.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's what's causing the black sticky stuff on the bottom is aphid secretion.
Councilmember Westman.
One of our neighbors in the north part of the city here on Palisades and McDonald, where there's a heavy infestation of aphids and secreting a lot of that, found a very simple remedy. The product is tree and shrub treatment. It is a chemical solution put out by Bayer Company, B-A-Y-E-R. He mixed this according to directions, used a sprinkling can on the soil, and has had outstanding results with aphids no longer there, and the tree itself is green. Its leaves are not falling. It was great. And Kara, I believe that our neighbor shared that with those around that area, and I want to share that with you. Tree and shrub treatment once a year in order to take care of the problem.
Feels like we're on an infomercial. Next up is council reports. Council reports? Councilmember Westman.
City Administrator, we might like to mention that the Lodging Tax Committee, I believe, is meeting October the 17th, is it not, at 9:30 a.m. And this particular committee is one in which decisions will be made on the distribution of the lodging tax that different guests at our 2 hotels pay when they come in to stay overnight. And decisions will be made as far as where those funds will be spent, especially for tourism. There's certain categories. So if you're interested in wanting to know how, Larry Wilcox and myself, and is there a third member of the council? But there's members from the lodging industry that's on this committee. We will make some decisions on who gets what from that pool of money. And it's thousands of dollars. So you might want to come and sit in on this. Amy Walker will be making a presentation for the tourism effort here, and it's meeting here at City Hall. Again, that's 17th of October. That's Wednesday at 9:30.
Thank you. Additional council reports. Councilmember Coffey.
Yes. Councilmember Jordan and I will be attending the restoration meetings for the Sequatchie Creek. They are very informative, and if you do have time, they are a very good meeting to attend. Also, my husband and I were privileged to attend the military police ball Friday night. Our community connector is the CID, and in comparison to a lot of groups, I'm not military, so I don't know the real name to call each one of these groups, but they're really a small group in comparison to everything else that's on JBLM. And they do a lot of work worldwide as far as the Criminal Investigation Division. So at this point in time, they really do have their hands full. And it was really a great evening to see a lot of these guys and their wives and husbands out there having a good time.
Thank you. Additional council reports. Next on the agenda is department reports. Are there any questions from council about these reports and this information in the packet? Councilmember Coffey.
Dawn, I don't know if you're prepared for the finance. I just wanted someone to hit the highlights of the first paragraph about the general fund revenues. It looks like overall they are coming in where they are supposed to be, but there's a lot of areas that, you know, that do have a deficit in them. General funds expenditures have a slight positive variance with only 72% of the budget expenditures, where the revenues, that looks like at 74. So there's a little bit of a, you know, uptick there. The B&O tax has increased, but as far as building planning, that is down. That is below revenue projections. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it's all kind of balancing itself out. Some of the revenue sources are down, some of them are up. Expenditures are tracking just slightly below budget for pretty much across the general fund. So we're anticipated to end the year just slightly under budget. So that's a good thing, which will add to the ending fund balance ever so slightly, and you'll see that in your budget reports under the 2012 year-end estimate.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on the department reports provided in your packet? There's no unfinished business. There's no new business. This brings us to public and council comments. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address the council on any issue? Come on up and earn that merit badge. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Jackson Miller. I do not know what an address for the reference is.
No. State your name and your address.
Oh.
Where do you live?
3070. Okay. My name is Jackson Miller. I live at 3074 Walker Road here in Dupont, Washington. And for the packet that I received to some of the Boy Scouts, we had to pick a problem, and obviously one of the problems that you have been discussing is the budget. But one of the things that it wants us to ask is, how can boys like us help? So I was coming up here to ask that question.
It's a great question. So I'd be happy to talk with you and your troop at length and brainstorm ideas and opportunities, because I'm willing to put in that time. I think it's very important. I think one of the biggest opportunities, whether you're doing it for a merit badge or whether you're doing it to advance in rank or just to help out in the community, I know there's certain requirements for each of those purposes, which is why I say that. There are lots of opportunities where you could go outside and help clean up our parks, help clean up our trails. It's unfortunate, but our community has seen an increase in graffiti, and to remove some of that graffiti from some of the parks facilities and those play structures would be helpful. One of the things that we've seen, unfortunately, is some decline in some of our equipment, and we'd be happy to have you work and coordinate with some of our public works staff to help support some of their efforts to maintain and improve some of the equipment. One of the other things that I've talked to some Boy Scout and Cub Scout leaders about that may be a really neat opportunity to take on citywide is these Wayfarer signs that we have throughout the city. Wayfarer signs essentially just means big signs that point the way. And it's kind of funny because my friends and brother-in-law, they come in and they go, where's the city of DuPont? I know where Northwest Landing is, but where's the city of DuPont? It says Northwest Landing all over the place. It says Northwest Landing's website. Well, we now own those signs, and we're going to work with your leaders to take down a lot of that information that's on there that doesn't represent the city and replace it with information that does represent the city. Our name, our logo, our website, and there's a lot of work that goes into that, and there's a lot of signs throughout our city, and it would involve painting and stripping them down and staining and repainting and mounting up new signs. And it would be an awesome project that would be seen throughout the entire community, and something that would help us attract tourists and point people on where to go when they come to the community. So that would be a big project. But like I said, there's many other ones all throughout the city, and I'd be happy to come and talk with your troop about different opportunities.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Additional public comments?
Andy, step 1398, Hudson Street. In the audience today, you'll see Boy Scouts from Troop 71. Troop 71 is located down in Steilacoom, but about a third of our boys are from Dupont. I'm not wearing my uniform today because I'm about to talk about Sequatchie Creek, but they are here as a requirement for working on their citizenship in the community merit badge.
Awesome.
And perhaps after the meeting, you could stay where you are right there, and they could come up and shake your hands and meet some of the gentlemen over here. So if that's possible,
great idea.
We'd appreciate that. Now to talk about, as the chair of Sequatchie Creek Watershed Council, we have been attending and contributing to the core group meetings. And Councilman Member Courts, I appreciate your questions. It would be great if we could receive more information at the council meetings. I think that would be beneficial to all that attend, just for general awareness, so that when the decision comes to be made, people have some sense of awareness of what's been happening and what's been going on. And so as council members, I would hope that when you do come to the meetings, that you provide that vision, not only in attendance, but also these are the things that we think the citizens of DuPont want out of the restoration plan. This is what we'd like to see and not see, and really contribute to the process, because there is a lot of good dialogue that's going on between the groups. Some of the grants that we have written and received in 2012 will be used to provide data in order to confirm or deny some of the proposals for water quality and all of that. So we're working with the Salmon Enhancement Group to get that done. I did want to just bring to your attention, because oftentimes many of what I've seen in the past is that often it's what's not said that's important, that you really need to be looking at. It's that what if, or what are the contingencies. And so I just wanted to bring to your attention something that came up at the core group meeting that I thought would be of interest to you. I seem to remember, well, it was probably more than a year ago, but when the discussion was going on whether the council was going to be a signatory to the settlement agreement, that you were under the impression that you were going to get a watershed plan out of it. Is that correct? You'd have a plan on the shelf that says you could take off of the shelf and say, this is what we're going to execute as the city, and this brings us a restored watershed. Is that correct? Or was I under a false assumption there? Perhaps you can't say, but I seem to remember from attending those meetings, particularly Councilmember Trotter, I seem to remember something that you said that sort of spoke to me. The current watershed plan only includes basically from right over here back to the source, to Sequatchie Lake. It doesn't include anything. The point has not been determined yet where exactly on the map, but somewhere over here in the canyon and everything down to the Puget Sound isn't included in this plan. And so I sort of sat there and I wondered, well, why wouldn't that be included in the plan? And, you know, when you go back to the documents, which we're not allowed to talk about at the core group meeting, the dewatering has an immense effect on, the proposed dewatering has an immense effect on the creek from this point down, because it's going to go dry. And so I thought that that was sort of interesting, that while we're talking about restoring the creek, we're not talking about restoring the watershed. And so that was a little bit troubling to me, that while we're contributing and we're making great steps in probably getting the surface water back and what that's going to look like and managing beavers and the 5 pillars that were written into the settlement agreement, which you signed, it doesn't include the rest of this. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Maybe that's not something new to you, but if it is, that again will stress why you as representatives need to be aware of what's going on at these meetings, and please come and contribute and hold everybody accountable for what's going on at the meetings. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Additional public comments?
Pete Stoltz from Calport, and I just feel the need to make a little bit of clarification following on Andy's comments that there's been a lot of discussion in the core group about what the scope of this restoration plan should be. And while the work that was scoped in the settlement agreement was really focused on these 5 elements that are related to getting water to flow from Sequatchie Lake through the Sequatchie, or through Edmund Marsh to the Sequatchie Creek Ravine, and we really need to have this effort focus on that. There's still been a lot of conversation about we need to recognize that this is a larger watershed and recognize that there's issues not only in the marsh system, but upstream and downstream, including the culvert that goes underneath the railroad bridge and some of these other topics and efforts that still need to be addressed in the watershed. But we've been really working at trying to focus on the things that were identified in the settlement agreement to work on as part of this restoration planning process. So, thank you.
Additional public comments?
My name is Alan Kroll. I live at 1521 Palisade Boulevard. May I have slide B? Is that possible, please? These will sound like a couple of quick questions from somebody who may not have been paying attention. My question is with slide, will this do it? These cuts, are they adequate? If Proposition 1 fails, would this, you're saying, well, this would be the budget, but does this generate adequate revenue then for the city?
In this proposal?
If you eliminate all of these things.
When you look at the shortfall that we're facing and the obligation that we have to make in the debt service, the debt payment, we have increased revenue and cuts, and these numbers add up to that shortfall amount.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But not cuts alone, and not
I see that. I understand that. You have a business council that you've met with from time to time. Institute square footage B&O tax. Has that been run by any kind of a business council? You haven't had a chance to think about all these things. That seems to me like that's fraught with great difficulty if we ever have any plan of attracting more business in order to expand the tax base. You've thought about that. My last question is this. Someone asked in one of your town hall meetings if you would consider an advisory group, an advisory board. I assume that the authority for that group would be to advise. Would they have any other authority at all?
I'm looking into what options that advisory group would have, and obviously I need to talk more with what that group would do and what they'd be focused on. But the bottom line is, they came forward and said, we're interested in tracking the budget. And I also said, help us track the performance management, because you have to look at it as a system of whole. You establish your ways and means, you establish your priorities, and then you establish your measures to make sure you're getting the results as a whole. So we'll keep talking about that and look at what opportunities we can provide for citizens to continue to be involved. But in the end, the council, as Councilmember Weston said, will make that final decision on the budget.
Thank you.
Additional public comments? Not, we'll go to council comment.
David Bungert, 2702. On that budget B, will that be enough if the levy fails to float the city for 1 year, separate the debt from public safety, and bring another levy in November of 2013?
Float the city.
You said that you could operate the city. So as you go through your budget process, you're going to know if the budget fails. Can you separate the debt from public safety and bring us a new levy in 2013?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. The aspect that's important to note is it will look different. I mean, we will make this payment come January 1st, and the council will pass a balanced budget. And to get to that balanced budget and to make that payment, it will require increased revenue and cuts in public safety services and our greenways and our historic building. And the city will look different. So if that's what you mean by float, yeah, we can float it looking differently and then keep looking at other options going forward.
Linda Cumberbatch, 806 Haskell Street. Mr. Mayor, I stand tonight to tell you that your Plan B is totally not acceptable for a city like DuPont. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Additional public comments? Council comments? Councilmember Wilcox and then Councilmember Quartz.
Yeah, I have two things to say. Number one, I personally would like to welcome the Boy Scouts of America here tonight. My son was involved. I was involved. It's a great organization, one of the best organizations that America has produced. Also like to welcome the Scoutmaster and his I guess you call them, we'll call them Scouts, okay. I'd like to welcome you back and anytime, and I appreciate your offering to help the city any way possibly you can. Second thing is this. What the mayor put up here tonight were simply recommendations. This is not the plan that we're going to go by in case the levy fails. We may add to this. We may delete from this. So people keep criticizing this. It's way too early because, once again, the council has not had a chance to get in there and wade in and say, Mayor, we need to do this and this and this, and maybe we shouldn't do this, maybe we should do that. So we're jumping the gun here. These are simply recommendations from the mayor. The council will make the final decision.
Councilmember Quartz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, I have a couple of questions or comments on your comments, and two particular points that you mentioned interest me. One of them, Mr. Crowell addressed in his comments, but this discussion of a citizen budget oversight committee with teeth, that sounds to me like a budget czar. Yep. Sounds like someone without legal standing, appointed, not elected, who has been given extra constitutional powers. We have a citizen budget oversight committee. That's called the council. They're elected by the citizens of this city. They are sworn into position and they have legal standing with our municipal code and with the Constitution of the state of Washington. The citizens elect 7 people for 4 years each on varying terms and have the ability to do that. Certainly input, the town hall meetings, the council meetings, the budget workshops are tremendous opportunity for engagement, but I have some serious reservations about creating an extra constitutional body and empowering it to do things that are essentially usurping the authority of the council. Related to that are assurances of expenditures. I think we also have mechanisms for that. It's called a council-approved budget. You know, whatever it is in December that is finally voted on is a contract between the government and the citizens of this fair city. There are quarterly adjustments that are made. Every single month, We track expenditures in great detail. We have a system of audits in place, which, as you have mentioned, we've had clean audits. And so again, you know, I have been critical of both political parties at our national level for either demanding or denying people signing assurances of what they will and will not do, because quite honestly, the economic challenges facing our nation are going to require people willing to embrace both increase in revenue and decrease in spending. One, to make a pledge of any type of what we will or will not do is a forfeiture of our constitutional authority and responsibility. And I would hope that all the council members would feel the obligation to the citizens to make the best decision possible based on the information available at the time, the circumstances we find ourselves in, rather than feel locked into a given course of action. But again, every decision we make is publicly debated, is voted on, has opportunity for citizen comment, and those numbers and actual expenditures are public information. They're out there. The mechanisms are there. They're established within our Constitution and our municipal code, and I quite honestly question the need or the wisdom of creating either additional bodies or additional agreements. Thank you.
Additional council comments. Councilmember Westman and Councilmember Ehrenreich.
Andy, I appreciate your comments that you made tonight during the citizen comment period, as well as the email that you sent to all the council members indicating that the Sequatchie Creek Watershed Council wants to be in a collaborative relationship with your city and with this council here. You brought forth the watershed plan for the future. What's the status? To tell you the truth, Andy, I don't know. You have brought forth an issue that needs to be addressed, and I would expect, if there are any other issues that any citizen group has that you want this council to address, you come on up forward, get behind the microphone, and let us have it. The point that you're making is very, very solid. What is the possibilities of the watershed being affected by the activities that are in the settlement agreement? And I hope that you will keep us on our toes in that particular effort or any of the other efforts that we should be addressing. Don't sit back there and stew in your juices there and say the council isn't dealing with certain issues. Well, we're dealing with a whole bunch of them now. And if you have an issue you think we should deal with, come on up here and let us have it. We're here to represent you and to be accountable to you. Thank you.
Councilmember Ehrenreich, then Councilmember Wilcox.
Well, I have a few things I wanted to say tonight. It may take a little bit of time, but so apologize for that, and sorry to have to do that to you. Scouts, appreciate you coming out tonight. It's very good to see you all.
Get ready for a civic lesson.
Well, actually it is, and it kind of plays a little bit on some of the things we've heard tonight. You know, of course, I'm sitting up here, having served up here for over 8 years, but it's my impression that this is a very well-run city. And the reason I say that is well, let me give you my perspective on that. I have worked down in Olympia for about 18 years as a lobbyist representing timber industry, particularly on tax issues. And I've also paid quite a bit of attention over the years to what's going on in the federal government. And it's been my impression that both the federal government and the state government have kind of lost their way. They have lost sight of what are their primary missions, what it is that they're supposed to do, as opposed to what they would like to do. And have at times, from a budgetary perspective, robbed those vital missions that they must do in order to pay for these other things that are nice to do. You know, for instance, the federal government's job, one of their primary mission is the military, to raise a standing defense. They're really the only entity that can do that. The state of Washington's paramount responsibility, it's in the Constitution, is education. They partner with school districts to carry that out, and school district does an excellent job. Both of those issues are very vital to this community, but they're not the job of the city government. And my point is that from my perspective of a well-run organization or a well-run government, it's an organization that has defined its mission and budgets and manages to that mission. And your city government has basically, it does a fairly good job of that. I say fairly good. We've strayed, we've sinned, but we sat down several years ago during the good times and had a very careful discussion over what was the mission, what is the priorities of the city government. And again, I'm talking about city government here. You don't want to mistake the community for the city government. The city government is there to serve the community. And we recognize that the city has, as part of its mission, as it's one of its primary missions, the protection of the public's health and safety. We have the police powers to do that. And we defined then, coming down from that, the primary missions and responsibilities and priorities of the government. Public safety, fire, police, emergency operations, what I call habitability issues, those things that allow you to actually live in your house, like water, sewer, garbage, street lights, and things like that. And then the third priority, parks, greenways, cultural issues, and things like that. You could live without parks and greenways, but you wouldn't want to live in a city for very long without them. So that's pretty much all we do, and we've focused on that, and have occasionally, I think we've strayed. I know that you know, it's like I said, education is not part of the city's mission, but we've been very supportive of the school board, and have at times when they were trying to construct their buildings, we waived some permit fees for them to help them out when they ran short in their budgets. And this council and members of the council have been very active in school things over the years. I know some of the council members were involved in the reboundary issues. I know I was heavily involved, along with some other council members, in the bond issue that helped build Pioneer Middle School, as well as the last 2/3 of Chloe Clark. I got a little medal for it someplace. But for the most part, we focus solely on those three missions: public safety, infrastructure, or habitability issues, and parks and greenways. And we do a pretty good job. It's been how we've been able to keep your tax rates the lowest in Pierce County. It's one of the reasons why we are able to run such an efficient operation. When I was going back through some of the old documents in the city just recently, I ran across the 1997 Capital Facilities Plan. And in that plan, they had 970 citizens in the city and 13 employees. And as the city has grown, we have not maintained that ratio. And if we had maintained that ratio, we would have well over 100 employees. And I think we've got, what, 40, what was it? 42 employees. We run a very efficient operation. And with that efficient operation, you get very high quality services. So for instance, public safety, one of our number one priority, the police department, when you call a cop, you get a cop within 3 minutes and 11 seconds on average. They show up. And when they show up, you get an experienced police officer, you get a well-trained police officer, you get an officer who knows what they're doing, and are able to deal with a wide variety of issues. City of Dupont was recently voted by the Police and Sheriff's Association as the safest city in the state of Washington. Now, I get it that a large part of that reason is because of the demographic we have here. We have, high income and high education don't tend to lend themselves to crime. But as we saw so dramatically a few months ago, not everybody who gets off those exits off the freeway is pure of heart. And we do have to have a strong police department. We do have to have a good police department that's able to respond to the issues that we have. It's the same thing with the fire department. You have very well trained, very well led. The police department is also extremely well led, very well led, well trained folks that are able to respond to a variety of issues. Just recently, one of the firefighters, without even turning a hair, delivered a baby. I mean, and that's the sort of thing that would sort of freak me out. But you know, here they are. They're well. They can respond to those sorts of things, and we are very lucky to have the people we have. We now have a good emergency operations plans. We have our emergency operations center across the street. We didn't have that before. Another primary mission, what I call the number two priorities, number two mission is what I call habitability issues: water, sewer, garbage. Stop for a moment and think about it. Water, clean water was a problem with clean water was the scourge of communities up until very recently in history. I mean, there were massive deaths taking place because of waterborne diseases, and yet the city here. Well, we kind of take it for granted, but the city here produces clean water, clean, tasty water, and it's always clean. And you all received recently in your mail the annual report about our water quality. I mean, you think about one of the most fundamental aspects of city government, which is to provide you with things like clean water, and we're doing it. We get the job done, and we do it pretty quietly. Same with stormwater utility. We have a system of conveyances that take away the stormwater, collects them into regional stormwater detention ponds, and infiltrates the water back into the ground. Now, other cities are struggling with this. How are they going to pay for this? Well, we're already there. We already have this system in place. Now, you paid for it when you bought your houses because the developer built those things in advance, but now we have to maintain them, and we're maintaining them according to the laws and the rules and the stormwater manuals that are published by the Department of Ecology. At the same time, we provide the streets that you drive on to get to and from work and to your home, street lights, sidewalks, things like that, all of which are really important to you and allows you to actually live in your home. And at the same time, we have code enforcement, which means, and this is the whole permitting process, we have codes in place. We adopt the International Building Code as well as other codes, in which we do our best to ensure that the buildings that are built are compliant with all these building codes, so that they're safe buildings into the future. They're more fire resistant. They won't cause problems with the water systems. All of the things that need to be done that they're not going to impact the public health and safety. We're doing the inspections. There was a period of time in DuPont's history in which we were not doing the inspections. And we've had enormous problems, particularly in the condominiums, because of a lack of those inspections. The financial side of the house is in fabulous order. I've worked for organizations in the past in which there was a lot of holes under the water line in the financial side of the house. And people really didn't know where the money was going. There was always some shady questions about what was happening. Nobody could really account for that. We had a lot of problems 8-9 years ago with the budgeting process. The budgets that were being presented to the public didn't add up. I mean, literally didn't add up. And we've since fixed that. And the budget that you get now that's available online is these budgets here. You can go and look at them, and anybody who is willing to sit down and spend a short amount of time to get themselves oriented with the budget can figure out exactly where their money is, where the money that drives the city is coming from, and where their money is going. And in fact, these budgets have historically won awards. You can see them here on the front page. The Distinguished Budget Presentation Award presented by the Government Finance Officers Association. This is the peer group of financial officers in municipalities, local governments, state governments throughout the United States, has recognized the DuPont budget as being one of the best in terms of presentation. I mean, I suppose we could have other problems with it, but what I mean by that is that this is one of the best budgets to be able to figure out what's going on in your city. The city has been very careful over the last years. There was a period of time in which we were not passing audits. The state auditor comes in regularly to audit us. I went to the last exit interview in which the state auditor gave us our ruling, and we once again, after I think 5 or 6 years now, have been getting again clean audits, where there was no findings in two fronts. One is just the financial statements themselves. If you read the financial statements, the auditor determined, the state auditor, Brian Sandheig's group, determined that the financial statements accurately reflect the financial condition of the city, and those are available to anybody. But also, they audit our policies to see what our policies are and how well we comply with those financial policies. And they gave us a clean bill of health. We have good policies. They praised us for our policies, financial policies that we have in place, and have confirmed that yes, we live to those policies. In fact, Standard & Poor, which is one of the agencies that rates the debt on various cities, has rated us, has reconfirmed just in the last couple of months our A+ rating. And they cited as part of the reason our good financial policies. And now that can change at any time, and we'll know a little bit after December or after November whether that might change or not. But the idea here is that we have an outstanding financial record here in town about how we manage our. We can all argue about where we spend the money and whether we should spend it here or spend it there, so forth, but there are no holes under the waterline in terms of our financial accounting systems, our policies, our practices in place. We have, I had some more notes here, but basically, when we get down to the parks and greenways, we have, I don't need to tell you all how we have beautiful parks, beautiful greenways. We're managing those and keeping those up on a shoestring. We don't have any excess money, and yet they still look good. And they were still, I mean, we all know that they could be better. I remember when we were trying to get ready for the Memorial Day presentation, a bunch of volunteers had to go down to Ross Plaza and spend a lot of time cleaning it up to make it presentable for the ceremony that was going to take place. And unfortunately, that is part of one of the places where we've been cutting back. But at the same time, I had always thought that this city was one that was going to have trouble getting recreation programs going. But through the really hard work of Amy and the Parks and Recreation Committee, including some of the former chairs, have spent a tremendous amount of time getting it going, and now I've been a convert. It looks as if we can run the recreation programs pretty much as a pass-through, where we're only subsidizing the recreation programs in this city by a little bit. By charging fees, we can cover it. Now, the problem is that doesn't cover the cost of maintaining the parks. And if we start to have to do cutbacks, it's hard to tell what kind of impact that would have right now. We'll talk some more as we go along on the recreation program, but I am worried about that. In the end, we can argue about whether the city should be spending more money in other places, or whether we should be cutting things back. But the bottom line for me, when I decided to become a council member, was that we were going to run this city in a very tight ship. And I like to think of myself as a fiscal conservative. And that is, we're going to define our mission, and we're going to stick to the mission, and we're going to budget and manage to that mission, and we're not going to do anything more. And that's basically what we've done. And in the process, we're providing you high-quality services at the lowest property tax rates in Pierce County, as well just your general taxes are lower. We just lowered the sales tax in this town as of October 1st, went down 0.6%. And if the other Proposition 1, which is the Proposition 1 in the rest of the county, passes, then it'll be 0.9% less. So anyway, I wanted to take the opportunity to explain to you why I think, why Ehrenreich thinks this is a well-run city. And those are my criteria. You may have other criteria, but from a budgetary perspective, I think we run a good tight ship here.
Additional council comments. Councilmember Wilcox.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate just very quickly what Mr. Courts, my fellow member here, said a few minutes ago. We live in a representative government, and what happens with the people in the community elect people to represent them. We, once again, listen to the people and make the final decision. The thing that bothers me a little bit, what I've heard just a few minutes ago, is to form agencies that will come in and have too much power. It bothers me. We are the final decision on the budget, just like the federal government, just like the state government. The legislative group, once again, makes the final decision. So I just wanted to back Mr. Courts there, and I think we need to be very, very careful in forming all these agencies to do this and do this and do this. Thank you.
Councilmember Coffey.
Yes. I would like to thank the mayor for having the neighborhood community meetings. I think he put himself out there, and he did take a lot of pot shots at times. Got some good feedback. Whether everything can be acted upon because of the lean organization we have and the bandwidth. It's open for discussion. We're going into our budget cycle. Please stay engaged and offer your opinions, comments, suggestions, because it is going to be a tough budget cycle. Every year I say that, and this one, this has got to be the toughest that I've gone through since being on the council. Thank you.
Additional council comments. There's no executive session. Unless there's any additional council comments, we will adjourn the meeting. Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting tonight at 8:50 p.m.